It's in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4 and following, where Paul exhorts the Philippians to have joy. And he says to them, rejoice in the Lord when things are going well. Oh, wait, never mind. Rejoice in the Lord when? What? Always. Again I say, rejoice. Let all men know your forbearance. The Lord is at hand. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And then the very famous verse, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Now, skip down just a few verses to verse 11, chapter 4, verse 11. And then he says again, not that I complain of want, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be what? Content. I know how to be abased. I know how to abound. In any and all circumstances, I've learned the secret. In the Greek there is muo, or we get the word mysterion from, mystery. I've learned the mystery or the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and want. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. Another very famous verse. So the question I want to begin with then is Paul here is talking about a kind of peace that passes understanding. He's talking about a joy that's constant in our hearts. He's talking about the secret of contentment that is always present in us no matter what the outstanding circumstances are, no matter what we're suffering, no matter what we're undergoing. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds great. Right? That sounds like a fantastic goal, right? I don't know about you, but I am so far from that. It's not even funny, right? Okay? So the question is, what is this secret of joy? What is the secret that Paul alludes to when he's talking about a peace that passes understanding? What I want to suggest in this presentation is that the secret of joy that Paul's alluding to in Philippians 4 is outlined in Philippians 2, in the hymn of Christ's self-emptying, the kenosis, the Christ hymn that he describes in Philippians 2. So we're going to go back to Philippians 2, and we're going to work through chapter 2 with that question of the secret of joy in mind and try to ask, what does Paul mean and how can we acquire it? So, on page 1 of your handout at the top, we'll just begin with verse 1 of chapter 2 and look at the fact that Paul begins by exhorting the Philippians to the unity of mind and to the virtue of, here's going to be the key, humility. Humility. Verse 1, Paul says this, so if there's any encouragement in Christ, any incentive of love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but in humility count others better than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. So have this mind among yourselves, which was in Christ Jesus, ... And he's going to go on to give the hymn in the next verses. Now pause there for a second. When many people exegete or interpret Philippians chapter 2, many commentators and scholars want to rush into the famous hymn of Christ's self-emptying and exaltation. But I think it's important to put that hymn in context. The hymn isn't just floating around. Paul's situating it in the context of his exhortation to the Philippians to embody the virtue of humility and to have the mind of Christ that's going to be revealed in the hymn. So if you look at these opening verses, Paul makes a few key contextual points. Number 1, first he calls them to unity of mind. He says, I want you all to have the same mind. And the Greek word there is phroneo, means to think the same way. Okay? Secondly, and this is important, he's not just asking them to change their thinking. He's also calling them to change their will. He's calling them to a unity of will to have the same love. Agape in Greek, right? So he wants them to think the same way and love the same way. And what is that way that he's calling them to? To do many things. No. To do some things. No. To do what? Everything in humility. The Greek word there is tapenophrosyne, right? Humility. Like sophrosune is wisdom, tapenophrosyne is humility. It's like a state of mind whereby you regard yourself in humility.
Amen.